The Gospels in our New Testaments are our most complete accounts of the life of Jesus and his ministry in the land of Israel. But why should we believe them? Are they historically reliable? I believe the Gospels are historically reliable because they fulfill four important criteria. Number one, their authors chose their sources judiciously. Let's take, for example, the Gospel of Mark. In the early 2nd century, there was a guy named Papias who reported that Mark reported what he remembered Peter saying about Jesus. Now think about this for a moment. Peter was Jesus' lead apostle, lead disciple, and one of Jesus' 3 closest disciples. So if Peter is the source behind Mark's gospel, that's profound. Now from whom did Papias get this information? Papias tells us that John the apostle had shared this information with him. And John was one of Jesus' 3 closest disciples. So this is amazing to think that the Apostle Peter was behind the Gospel of Mark. Number 2, the authors used their sources responsibly. Most scholars today agree that Matthew and Luke used Mark as their primary source and supplemented it with other sources known to them. So this creates a wonderful opportunity for historians because they can look and compare how Matthew and Luke use Mark as their source. And when they do this, they can see that Matthew and Luke use their source with a great deal of integrity. In fact, they stay closer to Mark than most biographers of that period stay with their sources. Number 3, numerous items that are reported in the Gospels can be verified. Now, it has to be said that a lot of what's reported in antiquity cannot be verified. That doesn't mean that these events didn't occur, that we shouldn't think that they occurred. It just means we can't verify that they occurred. And the same happens with the Gospels. However, we can confirm a number of things about Jesus. In fact, historians across the spectrum virtually 100% agree on a number of things about him that we can know from the Gospels. Number 1 is that Jesus believed he had a special relationship with God, whom he called Father, and that God had chosen him to usher in his kingdom. They agree that Jesus taught in parables. They agree that Jesus performed deeds that astonished crowds and that both he and his followers regarded as divine miracles and exorcisms. And they agree that Jesus was crucified by the Roman governor Pontius Pilate. There are many other things that seem to confirm the reliability of the Gospels. And number 4, no more than a small percentage of reported items are reasonable candidates for being mistakes. What I mean by that is this. It is difficult to verify a number of things in ancient literature, but it is also difficult to disconfirm a number of things in ancient literature because there could have always been some reasons that are, although unknown to us today, they would clarify the discrepancy or the tension that exists between different accounts. That said, we can still acknowledge that in ancient literature, including the Gospels, there are items for which we can say they are reasonable candidates for being mistakes. They may not be mistakes, but they are at least candidates for being mistakes. And in the Gospels, we have a half dozen or so of these. That said, each and every one of these candidates are minor details that are found only in the peripherals, and they don't change anything in terms of the gist of the story. So, in concluding, I think we have good reasons to think the Gospels are historically reliable biographies of Jesus. I'm Mike Licona, Associate Professor of Theology at Houston Baptist University, and that's why the Bible is real.